والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. To all my brothers and sisters here, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Tonight we're going to cover Surah Ambiyā and Surah Hajj. Now, Surah Ambiyā is a surah that begins and tells us that the day of judgment has drawn near, and people are still absent-minded of it. They're still playing games. They're still unaware of the fact that such a great event is about to come. And Allah says He gives the truth, but when the truth comes, He says, the truth is such, the truth cannot be broken with anything. So it's like a diamond. The diamond can't be cut with anything else. Only a diamond cuts another diamond. The same way Allah says, فَيَدْمَغُهُ فَإِذَا هُوَ زَاهِقٌ. Allah says, when batil and something that is falsehood comes against the truth, usually falsehood will break. Now, people do a number of things to try and propagate their falsehood, but it doesn't make the truth disappear. It doesn't make the truth go away. The truth is the truth. And one of the biggest truths Allah says is the fact that Allah is one, and if there ever were two gods, or if there were three gods, Allah says that the nature of a God would be to become more powerful. Allah said this in a number of places in the Quran. And here Allah Azza wa Jalla says that the whole heavens and the earth would be corrupted because there was more than one God. Because in another surah we covered, in Surah Isra, Allah said, لَبْتَغَوْا إِلَى ذِي الْعَرْشِ سَبِيلًا. If you had gods, several gods, then there would obviously be one God that is more powerful than another God. And there would be one that would have the throne, or one that would be the ultimate powerful God. And all other gods would try and get to this powerful God and take over the powerful God. If that is the nature of anyone who has something of power, that you want to increase your power. And Allah says that it is not possible. So therefore, by logic and by default, Allah says there's only one God. There's never been and there will never be more than one God. Now, Allah Azza wa Jalla draws our attention to a number of things that is given to us. And Allah says, look at how I have created everything from water. وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. Allah says, وَجَعَلْنَا السَّمَاءَ. As for your sky, it's a protection for you. I've given you that as a protection. I've given you water as life. I've given you the day and night, that you find something that keeps you in, within time itself. And Allah says, all the gifts that I've given to you, good and bad, both are tests for you. So never think that only the tests are those things that we don't like. Never think that. Because Allah says, وَنَبْلُوكُمْ بِالشَّرِّ وَالْخَيْرِ فِتْنَةً. I've given you some things that you don't like on this earth. And I've given you some things that are really good for you, you love. Allah says both of them are a test for you. Some of us are being tested with more wealth, with a lot of wealth. Some of us are being tested with less wealth. Some of us are being tested with a lot of beauty or a lot of intelligence. Some of us are being tested with less intelligence, less beauty. Any way you go, it is a test. Because like Yusuf alayhi salam we covered the other day, his test was his beauty. The excess beauty that he had, that was his actual test. Each and every one of us has a different test, whether it's good or bad. Allah Azza wa Jalla then turns our attention to the mawazin al-qist. He says that on the day of judgment, the fact that I'm going to weigh your deeds is an absolute fact. It's going to happen, that your deeds are going to be weighed. La rayba fi, there is no doubt in that. So one thing that you've got to keep in mind is, with all the gifts I've given you, with all the tests and trials I've given you, in the end I'm going to weigh them all, and then based on the weight of your deeds, if there's more good deeds, you go to Jannah. If there's more bad deeds, you're on your way to hellfire. Then Allah Azza wa Jalla talks about a series of prophets. Number one, He talks about Ibrahim alayhi salam. Now, we covered Ibrahim alayhi salam yesterday, but today's attention is more on the conversation he has with his people. And in this particular surah, he actually breaks the idols. He waits for the day when his nation go out for a festival, and on that day he decides to take a big axe and he goes to each and every one of the idols, and he asks them, he said, here's some food, here's some drink, go on, eat it, go on, drink it, go on. You're not going to do it? Okay. He smashes one idol. He says, hey, eat, drink. You can't eat, drink? No. Smashes another, smashes another, smashes another, until he gets to the big one. He's only left one big one there. Ibrahim alayhi he climbs up the big one, he ties the axe around it, he leaves it there, and then he walks away. Now his people come, they say, when they come, they're absolutely astonished. It is their temple, these are all their gods, every single one of them is smashed except for the big one. And they say, who's done this? And then fingers start pointing to Ibrahim alayhi salam. Now they summon him, and Ibrahim says, look, this is the big one, look at the big one. Ask him, I mean, he's got the axe around his neck, right? He should know what happened. I mean, can't they speak to you? Can't they talk to you? Come on, you should have some senses. And if they can't, then why are you worshipping those things that can't even save themselves? They've got no way of protecting themselves. So why are you worshipping them? They had no other plan except to burn him alive. So they put him into the fire. A long story short, they got all the firewood they could, put him into the middle, and they lit the fire. And Ibrahim salam, he turned to none other than Allah Azza wa Jalla. And Allah says, Qulna, we said, Ya naru, O fire, kuni barda, become cool, become something that is safe for Ibrahim salam. Now, subhanallah al-azim, he was saved from the fire. Now Allah talks about a number of things, number of messengers that he saved. So he talks about Lut alayhi salam, وَنَجَّيْنَاهُ. Allah says, I saved him مِنَ الْقَرْيَةِ الَّتِي كَانَتْ تَعْمَلُ الْخَبَائِثِ, from a nation of people that used to do a lot of obscene things. Allah says, I saved him from there. Allah talks about Nuh alayhi salam, says, فَنَجَّيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْغَمِّ. I saved him from the stress, مِنَ الْكَرْبِ الْعَظِيمِ, from a massive tragedy that he was going through. Allah says about Dawood and Sulaiman alayhi salam, how he gifted both of them. And he made the son more intelligent than the father. The father was very intelligent, don't get me wrong. Dawood alayhi salam was King David. He was King David the Great. And he ruled. But his son, King Solomon, Sulaiman alayhi salam, was one step ahead of him in intelligence. And this is the beauty of the Quran. Because sometimes you can be a father, you can have a son that is more intelligent than you. What do? You embrace it. Sometimes you can have a student that is more intelligent than you. And you embrace it. Those of you, please, who are speaking in the back, and those of you speaking at the back, please, others have come to listen to this. There's no need to speak, please. All brothers over there and at the back over there, please, stay silent. Now, then Allah Azza wa Jalla turns his attention to another prophet. He says, Ayyub alayhi salatu salam. And how was Ayyub? When he was in distress, he had lost his family, he was struck with illness, he only had his wife next to him, and he called on to Allah. Now, Allah talks about how each and every prophet called to Allah in the moment of distress. Nuh alayhi salam called Allah, he got his answer. Each and every one, when they called Allah, Lut alayhi salam called Allah, he got his call answered. He talks about Ayyub alayhi salam, and Ayyub alayhi salam says, Rabbi, my Lord, anni massani ad-dur, such an affliction has come upon me. وَأَنْتَ خَيْرُ الرَّحِيمِ. You're the best of those who have mercy. Now look at the way he's calling Allah. You have so much mercy, and I'm here, I've got an affliction. So Allah says, I then removed his affliction. I gave him double what he had lost. Double the wealth he lost. Double the family he lost. I gave him all that back. Then Allah talks about the Nun, the one of the fish, meaning Yunus alayhi salam. Again, he found himself in the belly of the whale, in the darkness, and fanada fil dhulumat. He calls Allah from many darknesses. Darkness of the belly of the whale, darkness of the dark sea within which the whale is, darkness of the dark sky above, darkness of the storm. He calls Allah from in the midst of the belly of the whale. He says, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin. He says, Oh Allah, you're the only one and only God, and I'm telling you that you're free from all blame. I'm the one who's that wrong. Now, subhanAllah, Allah says, فَنَجَّيْنَاهُ مِنَ الْغَمِّ. I saved him from his distress, and then I delivered him safe. Now, Allah then follows it by saying, وَكَذَلِكَ نُنْجِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Thus I will rescue and I will save every believer in the similar manner. Which means, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us in a hadith of Tirmidhi, whoever is in any problem, any difficulty, if you say this dua in the Quran, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin, in this surah, Surah 21, Ayah 87, Allah Azza wa Jal, His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, Allah will save you in a similar manner. You just have to repeat it, and say it from your heart. Doesn't matter what kind of stress, what kind of difficulty you're going through, you do the same thing. Then Allah talks about Zakaria alayhi salam, how he was asking for his son. Allah said, أَصْلَحْنَا ذَهُ الزَّوْجَةِ. I rectified the situation with his wife. His wife was barren, but I gave him the son that he wanted. Each and every messenger, why does Allah mention them? Allah has given us a lesson. You're in difficulty, turn to me. Don't be like those who turn away. Now, we come to Surah Hajj. Now, Surah Hajj begins with the Day of Judgment. Because Surah Hajj, ultimately, at the beginning was revealed. There are certain ayats that were revealed for the Meccan people, but there are many ayats for the Medinan people as well. So Allah Azza wa Jal says, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, ittaqu rabbakum, be conscious of your Lord, be aware of your Lord. Allah says, Inna zalzalat as-sa'ati shay'un 'azim. The earthquake of the Day of Judgment is going to be something very severe. Then Allah talks about the Day of Judgment, where the mother, now imagine whose example Allah takes. The mother is the closest individual to you on this earth, period. Period. There's nobody more closer to you on this earth. Nobody will love you more. Nobody would actually jump into she'll even jump into fire just to rescue you as a child. Allah says, يَوْمَ تَذْهَلُ كُلُّ مُرْضِعَةٍ عَمَّا أَرْضَعَتْ. As for your mother, the one who suckled you, the one who breastfed you, she on the Day of Judgment, she will abandon you, she will forsake you, she will leave you, she will completely forget you. If she had a load of a baby in her womb, she would drop it because of the catastrophes she sees on the Day of Judgment. وَتَرَى النَّاسَ سُكَارَى. And you see people in a state of being drunk. وَمَا هُمْ بِالسُّكَارَى. They're not drunk. وَلَكِنَّ عَذَابَ اللَّهِ شَدِيدٌ. But this punishment of Allah is very severe. Allah begins the whole surah with the Day of Judgment. Then Allah says, okay, you don't believe in this Day of Judgment? You don't believe in life after death? Allah says, okay, if you're in doubt of life after death, Allah is telling us to look at yourself. Allah says, look at yourself. You came from the dead. Allah says, I created you min turab, from the earth. Your essence is from earth, from water. This is your essence. A lot of what we made of is from the earth and from water. Allah says they are dead. They actually have no life within themselves, especially turab. The earth has no life. Then Allah says, your father, when he was about to pass you on to your mother, Allah says, what were you? You were a dead substance. You're a substance that you'd want to throw away. But Allah says, I put life into that. Then I made you like a chewed thing into your mother's womb. Then I make you grow. Then مُخَلَّقَةٍ وَغَيْرِ مُخَلَّقَةٍ. I make you grow until Allah says, I leave you in your mother's womb for how long I want. ثُمَّ نُخْرِجُكُمْ طِفْلًا. Then I take you out as children. Then I bring you to old age. Okay, that's fine. Allah says, now look at the tree. You look at the tree, you see the tree growing, you see the tree dying every year. There's one death the tree receives every single year, but yet it comes back alive again. Most of these trees we see around, they literally are like they're dead. Dead in winter. But then when the spring comes, they come back alive again. But there's another one Allah gives example of in the Holy Quran. He says there's an absolute death you see. Look in the Sahara Desert or in any similar place. You see trees that were growing, they are completely finished. Literally the entire tree has turned into dust. There's nothing on the ground, there's nothing underneath the ground. And what happens is Allah says, فَإِذَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمَا الْمَاءَ. When I then bring the monsoon rain onto the land, Allah says, فَإِذَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمَا اهْتَزَّتْ. The whole earth revives. وَرَبَتْ. It starts to grow things. وَأَنْبَتَتْ مِنْ كُلِّ زَوْجٍ بَهِيجٍ. And it gives birth to every type of greenness you can imagine. Now, I met a professor about 24 years ago. He told me, subhanAllah, that he done a research on the human, because Allah mentions the human in this ayah, he mentions the tree in this ayah. This professor said to me that he did a full study on the tree and about life after death. And what he found is amazing. He said, you know when you cut the tree, you find the rings in the tree and the rings tell you how old the tree is. If you cut the human spine, you also find rings in there and the rings tell you exactly how old the human is, subhanAllah. Next thing is, the actual tree in the Sahara that died, everything diminishes except for one rubbery part right at the bottom of the tree which stays in the ground. That never destroys. No matter what comes over it, that never destroys. Now, as soon as the water comes onto that rubbery part, the whole tree comes back to life again because of that one small rubbery part at the bottom of the roots of the tree. He did a whole thing on the hadith of Bukhari where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that the human, when we die, literally we're going to be reduced to nothing. We're going to be literally our bones are gone, we're turned to dust. But what does Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? He says, "Illa ajibul dhanb." He says, except for the human coccyx, which is a small rubbery part at the bottom of our spines. He said that part from there, when Allah will send rains, after the blowing of the horn, in the hadith of Bukhari it says, rains will come down onto the earth, and when those rains come onto the rubbery part of the human part that was remaining, subhanAllah, the whole human will come back alive again. So this is a very similar thing, and Allah says, I've given you the example in the Quran of a tree. Study the tree and you'll see your life after death. Anyhow, After this, Allah says, وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهِ. There are certain people who worship Allah. When it comes to them receiving something good, they just sit back and they relax. خَيْرٌ مِطْمَئَنَّ بِهِ. I've given you something good, you literally just sit and relax. And Allah says, I've given you something good, you go away. So basically, you're not interested in me anymore. وَإِنْ أَصَابَتُ فِتْنَةٌ. Allah says, if I give you an affliction, then you fall on your face. Then you're all left and right. Allah says, what kind of worship is this? If you're going to be with me, Allah says, good or bad, stay with me. Don't be someone, I give you something good and then you walk away. You don't know who I am anymore. Only when you get something bad, then you're all agitating. Because in that situation, Allah says, خَسِرَ الدُّنْيَا وَالْآخِرَةِ. You're going to lose this world and you're going to lose the next world. Allah Azza wa then talks about a part in the Quran here in Surah Hajj about those people in Jahannam and those people in Jannah. And again, what you will find in the Quran is every time you come across an ayah to do with Jannah, you'll find Jahannam there. When Jahannam is there, you'll find Jannah there. And it's very important to keep both of these together because it gives us the right amount of hope and fear. So as for Jahannam, Allah says, those people who are in Jahannam, Allah says, they will have boiling water from the pit of Jahannam literally poured over their heads, where the entire skin, the scalp, the whole thing burns all the way off. And Allah repeats that again and again and again. Allah says, مَقَامِعُ مِنْ حَدِيدٍ. They will have metal irons, iron hammers. Iron hammers Allah has created with which they will be beaten in Jahannam. كُلَّمَا أَرَادُوا أَن يَخْرُجُوا. Every time they want to leave Jahannam, أُعِيدُوا فِيهَا. They will be sent back straight inside. And وَقِيلَ لَهُمْ, and we said to them, ذُوقُوا عَذَابَ الْحَرِيقِ. Taste the burning punishment of hellfire. As for the people who will be in Jannah, Allah says they did good actions, they believe. Allah says, I will give them clothes that are going to be fine clothes, embroidered. They will be made of pure silk. They will be in Jannah. Allah says, لِبَاسُهُمْ مِنْ حَرِيرٍ. They're wearing silk. They're also مُتَّكِينَ عَلَى الْأَرَائِكِ. They're reclining onto cushions I've given them. وَهُدُوا إِلَى الطَّيِّبِ. They've been guided to this goodness. وَهُدُوا إِلَى صِرَاطِ الْحَمِيدِ. They've been guided to this beautiful, this pathway of absolute pleasure and absolute praise. Now, he then turns our attention to a few things that in Hajj we have to do. But one ayah I want to point out to you. You know, in Hajj, or even when we're back here in our homes, and we have to make a sacrifice. Allah says, لَن يَنَالَ اللَّهَ لُحُومُهَا. As for the sacrifice you make of the animal, the meat never reaches Allah. وَلَا دِمَاؤُهَا. The blood of the animals never reaches Allah. وَلَكِنْ التَّقْوَى. Allah says, except the taqwa, the part in your heart that you've got of fearing Allah, that reaches me. So Allah's not interested obviously in the meat, He's not interested in the blood. All He's interested in, did we fulfill His command? And did we actually be conscious of Him and do what He told us to do? Now with that, Allah says, He gave permission to the believers to fight back. And He said, them fighting back will secure the monasteries, the churches, the synagogues. These are mentioned in the Quran. That the religion, when it goes out there and tries to create a situation where it's bringing peace on the earth, is peace for other religions. This is the religion of Islam. And Allah says these are places of worship that the Muslims will protect because they are the ones who become dominant. الَّذِينَ إِن مَكَّنَّاهُمْ. If I give them space on the earth, they're already people who are أقاموا الصلاة. They are establishing prayers. They are giving zakah. أَمَرُوا بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. They are calling towards good. نَهَوْا عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. They are preventing others from doing evil. Basically, these are the conditions to get a place on the earth where Allah gives us a reign. The reason why we're not powerful on the earth is because we haven't got a good enough group of people who are of this quality so that they can be in charge and they can be in good control of the land and make it better for everyone else. Anyway, in the end of the surah, subhanAllah, just to end off, Allah Azza wa Jalla turns His attention to those people who think that they have created so much and they're like playing God. Allah says, Ya ayyuhan nas, ضُرِبَ مَثَلٌ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ. Allah says, okay, you think you're playing God, you think you've gone beyond me, you think you can create certain things. Allah says, okay, I'll give you a challenge. Create the fly. Allah says, not even one of them can create a single fly. A fly that is so small, Allah says, look at the perfection of what He has created. So, in essence, Allah is saying, because no one is able to compete with Allah, it is only Allah that is the Khaliq. And Allah tells us right at the end, He tells us, look, this is the religion of Islam you have.
This is Islam. Your father Ibrahim made dua for you. Stay and stick with your religion. Huwa sammakum muslimin. He called you Muslims at the beginning. فَأَقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةِ. Continue to pray. Atu zakat. Give you zakat. اعتصموا بالله. Have your, hold on to Allah Azza wa Jal. Allah says, Huwa mawlakum. I am your guardian. نِعْمَ الْمَوْلَى وَنِعْمَ النَّصِيرُ. The best of guardians and the best of helpers. Jazakumullah khair. Please stand up.